Hello and welcome new University of System of Maryland Student Council members. This video is intended to be informative for those of you who are unable to come to the special meeting in August of 2020 so that you know what to expect for this year, and we look forward to welcoming you all to the first official meeting of the term, which is September 13th from 11 to 3. That's a Sunday, and in the meantime, this will be short and sweet, but it will help you get started and let us have some momentum in September. So with that, I'm going to go ahead and share my screen. So again, this is the 2020-2021 term for the University of System Maryland Student Council, and this is a presentation intended to acquaint you with the purpose of the council, what is under our purview, and how we're going to proceed successfully for the rest of this year. Purpose. So the University System of Maryland Student Council, we are an apolitical advisory board, and we were established to assist the chancellor. The council derives its authority from the Board of Regents, and therefore we are also acting as a conduit for communication between the chancellor and the Board of Regents and students. We are the collective voice of all the institutions in the system for the student perspective. In keeping with this, we must be proactive throughout the year. So we are going to be thinking about and generating new ideas, which will help us review and ask for changes to already existing policies, and we may also be drafting up new policies for consideration. In addition to this, a more specific way of thinking about how we help the chancellor is we will be advising the chancellor on issues, matters, and policies having direct bearing on students. How will we do this? Well, the chancellor is going to be meeting fairly frequently with groups of students from across the system, which we as a council will help set up and do the outreach for and so forth. These are going to be thematic. The first one will be in September and will be about issues surrounding return to campus. So if you have not already done so, please do think about people on your campus who have been serving on COVID-19 committees and other issues related to the return of campus this year. In fulfilling our functions, we will be providing the chancellor not just with majority viewpoints, but also with minority viewpoints. This is really important that we keep this in mind, as all of our institutions are very different. We are not always going to have the same perspective depending on the different contexts that we are coming from. So we need to make sure that we represent all of our constituents and all of our institutions, and sometimes we're going to need to put forth more than one viewpoint. That being said, hopefully there will be viewpoints where we have entirely, a consensus, and therefore we can go out with a very strong opinion, resolution, or policy, hopeful policy change that could really be beneficial for everyone when that consensus can be met. We also function as a place for sharing best practices. We are a networking place. So every month when we meet up, every single institution gives a campus report. And if your institution has more than one student council, and what I mean by that is you more likely than not have an undergraduate student council and a graduate student council. Both of those organizations will be giving a report. So just have that in the back of your mind. Think about what would make your report the most effective. Think about things that are going on at your campus where you want to know what other campuses are doing, so that you can cross-compare, perhaps advocate on your campus for something that's already taking place at a peer institution, offering up things that you think may help others, or thinking about issues on your campus that may have, or you already know have, a system-wide policy that directly relates. And that way you can make the most of your time with your campus report each month. And then I'm trying to think if there's anything else with that. Those are the main things. We will be in communication in between our meetings as well. So please, if you have not already done so, join the OneDrive, which is where we're keeping various resources for all of you, and we're keeping them both by, we have things like meetings, so you can see the meeting schedule, and we have things like the bylaws and the Constitution, all that stuff. But we also have folders based on topic. So if something is important to you, mental health, campus safety, Title IX regulations, the list can go on and on. Please do upload what you're doing on your campus or questions you have. Create folders if they are not already in existence. We will be checking that regularly, those of us on the executive team, and we will be following up with you, and we will be making sure that those become agenda items if and when we see things emerging in either the Teams where you're chatting with us or on the OneDrive if you're uploading resources or asking questions on that platform. Moving to membership, this is just so you kind of have an idea of how we function as a council, what our council is composed of, and also where we fit inside the larger system structure. The executives on our council. I'm the president this year, so I'm one of the three. Then Bernetta is our vice president of undergraduate affairs, and currently the vice president for graduate affairs is vacant. So one of the things we went over in the first meeting, and hopefully you're watching this before the September meeting, is if you have anyone on your campus who would be a good match for being the vice president of graduate student affairs, please do send them our way, and we will help them through that self-nomination process, and the election will be taking place on September 13th, again 11 to 3. Then each institution has 2 voting members. Most of the time, the intent of that is for it to be the president of the undergraduate student government and the president of the graduate student government. Not every institution has both, but every institution has 2 representatives. So if you cannot send a president of graduate students and a president of undergraduate students, please do try to send an undergraduate and a graduate. Now, if you are one of the few locations or institutions that only has undergraduates or only has graduate students, then you would send 2, as that's the only thing that would be available to you. But otherwise, please do try to get both groups represented. Now, each place has 2 representatives. That doesn't mean that you can't bring other people from your campus to a meeting. You can. Please do let us know ahead of time. And this can be in one or more ways. You could be sending somebody in your stead as a proxy if you're unable to make one of the Sundays throughout the year, or somebody could be coming with you because they have a certain issue they really want to talk about for themselves, or maybe they have an area of expertise on your campus that you're trying to bring that wisdom to the council for that month. Either way, they're more than welcome, but keep in mind, no matter what, your institution has 1 vote. There are also ex officio members of the council. Our 2 student regents this year are Nate Sampson and Aaliyah Edwards. They are both wonderful. They have given contact information, which will be made available to you again on those shared resource drives, so that you can text or email them as needed and connect with them throughout the year. Because as we said earlier today during the meeting, they are in the room where it happens. So they get to meet with the Board of Regents. And this year, Nate is the voting student regent, and next year, Aaliyah will be the voting student regent. They're both incredibly approachable, and they both already have a pretty wide array of issues that they're very passionate about, including food insecurity, student homelessness, returning to campus issues, parent support, and Title IX regulations all came up today. Then our other ex officio members, who I also like to think of as our advisors, are members from the USM, mostly Joanne Bowman and Zakia Lee. Now, there's a separate part of the council, and this is called the Board of Directors. In our bylaws, there are 4 roles. All of them are currently vacant. So if you or someone you know would like to fill any of these roles, please do let us know. These roles are different than executive roles. They are not elected, they are appointed. That being said, they will still be reviewed by the group. They just will not be going through an election process, and the final say will be myself making those appointments, but I will be taking into consideration very strongly the review of everybody. So you have 2 roles in this. One is the outreach piece. Please help us find somebody. If you are interested in one of these roles, please understand that if you are appointed to one of these roles, you can no longer be the voting representative of your institution, and you need to find somebody who will be able to fill that role for you. If you find somebody else from your institution who's interested in this role, you don't have to worry about that. You would remain the voting member. Meetings. Meetings are typically the official kind. Once in a while, we will have a special meeting like we did today to sort through some matters and not have to go by the same guidelines as an official meeting. At every official meeting, there will be reports by the executive board members like myself and Bernetta and the VP for Graduate Affairs. There will be reports from the university system for us. There will usually be a guest speaker, and then there will also be committee reports, which we'll get more into in a little bit, and there will be campus reports. After all of those take place, a typical meeting also has breakout sessions where we will break out into groups and then come back together, and that is where the majority, the bulk of our idea generation comes from, and where we identify the issues or solutions that we want to work on that we would then work on in between each of those meetings. Also, just so you know, other rules about our meetings, we have quorum. Quorum is a simple majority of the active USM institutions and regional centers. For parliamentary procedure, we go by Robert's rules. Hopefully those of you who are on your SG or GSA are already somewhat acquainted with Robert's rules. It's fairly simple. It is a different kind of vocabulary, but we will work with each other. We will support those who are less familiar at this time, and you'll catch on really fast. It won't be an issue. Transparency. Transparency is really important to us. So the meeting earlier, our official meetings, those will all be recorded and live streamed. Committees. Committees are really important to the function of USMSC, but we really need them to be focused and have follow through. So we don't want to just make a ton of committees and then have people taking on more than they're able to do a good job. And when that happens, you end up with ineffective committees, which in my opinion is worse than no committee at all. Because you may have had the intent to say this issue is important, and there are so many important issues, but I think it's worse to identify an issue and then give it no follow through, and then have it be, just, how it goes, it kind of falls through the cracks. So we are a student group. We are all volunteering our time, every single one of us. We all also have many roles that we fill in our lives. So we just need to be very careful as a group as to what we decide we will work on in the committee capacity and make sure that they're really effective and successful. To that end, if you would like to create a committee, here's what you gotta do. You have to figure out what you want that committee to be about. You have to identify a chair. And when you do so, you would come to one of our official meetings. I would recommend September so that the committee can have the entire term to work together. And all you would do is, again, this is going back to Robert's rules, you would put a motion. So you would say something along the lines of, I motion to create a committee on public health on campuses. And the chair of this committee will be so-and-so from this institution. We would then vote on that with quorum, and we would vote to create that committee. When a committee exists, you are expected to provide a report at every official meeting. Committees welcome people who are not voting members. So if you have somebody on your campus who is extremely passionate about student voting, for example, they can be the chair, but they need to know that they're signing up to come every month on that Sunday to give a report. So just be very clear about that expectation. But if it's something somebody is really passionate about, it makes sense. This is a very good use of their time because all of a sudden they're able to reach and work with the entire system all at once through this kind of committee extension of the work that they're already doing on your individual campus. If we find that somebody who has assumed the role of chair is unable to fulfill what we're discussing here, if they are unable to attend the meetings, if they become unresponsive, and they miss meetings without telling us ahead of time, we will ask that chair to step down. And we will, as a council, in between meetings, decide who will assume the chair role, or we will have to move down here to the bottom and consider the disbanding that role prior to June 30th. So that was our welcome presentation. I'll go ahead and stop sharing my screen. I just want to say that it is an honor, truly, to be your president this year. We have so much that we are able to do We are a group of leaders, and we have a lot of things that are made accessible to us. And I hope that you enjoy your time with us. Please do know that I have an open door policy, even though it's all virtual this fall, and that you can reach me via email, via text, via our teams, and that I would be happy to communicate with any of you at any time. That being said, I'll see you all in September.